Welcome home. We are WNST. Tassel, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We are positively here in my homeland. The smell of crabs. We're at Costas Inn. We're in Dundalk. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I've given some Pac-Mans away, as well as some Gold Rush 7s, doublers. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions bringing us out here and making it happen, as well as Jiffy Lube Multi-Care. As football is being tossed on the television. The Orioles are going to be taking on the Yankees today. Luke Jones will be here a little later on. Getting around town, I'm so blessed to have done this for as long as I've done it. It's 40th anniversary of media. It's my 33rd year in radio. It's my 26th year of owning WNST. And we had this 25th anniversary documentary that I worked hard on with Greg Landry and Towson Transfers. And telling my story. And then so many people around town that I've talked to or haven't talked to, whether it's having someone like Rob Roblin on or having Jane Miller on a couple of years ago. I've had Jamie Costello on, but I realized he's never done the crab cake tour with me. And Jamie's party last week, my wife broke her ankle. And I said, we got to go. Even if I just plant you at the door, like, we got to be there. So many of our friends are going to be there. And I looked through who's attending. And the Jamie Costello, just on Facebook, who's attending was this crazy who's who of people. And I had no idea who I was going to run into, but there's Pete Caringi there, and there's Johnny O there. And the great Chris Emry, my longtime friend who I grew up, you hate this, and so does Sarah. But I grew up listening to you when I was a little boy, back when Back in Black came out. Chris was one of my jocks, and as was Sarah, as was Chuck Ducote, as was Ty Ford. I go through all the names of all Lopez, all of your guys that that Kirk always gives love to. But I am a Bay listener, and Brillhart knows this. Donna Jean knows this, who you were with at the party the other night. And I saw you. And Brillhart has never done this with me, even though he has read he read my documentary. He's one of the documentarians of my documentary. And Brillhart and I grew up together in Tom Pless's homeroom in 1982 and 83 in Dundalk High School. And I've never had you on a show. And I know you like in the real. We've had meals together. We've gone to concerts together. We've done stuff. But I've never had you on a show, so I'm embarrassed. And then you come up to me at this thing, I'm with Caringi, you're like, hey, I live near Costas now. And I'm like, I'm doing a show at Costas. You got to come do the show, dude. So thank you. I love you, and it's great having you on, and it's good having peers and friends, you know?
I'm delighted.
Well, nobody even knows we know each other, or they all think we do know. They think everybody on the radio knows everybody.
Yeah, but
they don't. But I didn't know you lived in Edgemere. When did you do this?
A year ago.
Why? No, I should say, why did people come to Dundalk? I don't know.
Water. My wife always wanted a place on the water, and we've been looking for like 4 years. Over and over and over.
Do you have a boat?
Over. No, not yet. I've got to get my pier fixed first.
She just wants to look at the water. Is that what it is?
Well, that's what we got, and it's perfect. The sun sets exactly coming right through the back window over the deck.
It's because it's Dundalk. Yeah. The sun's always shining in Dundalk. It's different than Northern Ohio. Speaking of Northern Ohio, Jessica Vallis is going to fetch her children out in Ohio this week. They do not have oysters like this, like they do here. And I told her I'm doing this crazy. I'm doing 26 oysters in 26 days, beginning on September the 4th. I'm going to do it the whole month of September with the Ravens kicking off against Kansas City on the Thursday night. And I told her this is my favorite oyster in Baltimore that I know of. Are you an oyster person? I never order them either. There's always. I come to Costas, I get the crabs, I get the crab cakes. The chicken gyro here is delicious. I love crab imperial. I loved fried shrimp. I was telling Karen at the bar, when Luke gets here today, I don't even know if Luke eats shrimp, but my dinner tonight is going to be, and this is so Dundalk, I'm going to get some steamed shrimps. I'm going to put some Old Bay on there with some onions and some beer, and we're going to have that steamed. So I'm having steamed shrimp tonight, but this is my favorite oyster in the city, because I love the spinach that they make.
Probably the first one you ever ate.
Have you had an oyster Rockefeller here? Do you want one of these? Or are you okay? You're done.
I'll give it a shot.
All right, I'm going to give you one, and then I'm going to give me one. And we're going to eat this at the end of the segment because we're going to get our mouths all cheesy if we do it. They're like rocks. Have another plate, Jess, over here. Send me a plate over. Send me the dirty one. That's fine. They're oysters. We're all family. We're all in this together. Here, you give me one, and I give you two. It's kind of like my wife. You give me a 10, I'll give you a 20, honey, right? Exactly. So we have oysters here. So I'm doing different oysters every day. And this crab cake tour, about 5 years ago during a plague, I said to my wife, I need to recreate myself and what I want to do and not deal with these creeps at these sports teams asking them for permission to do what I do. And I said, I'm going to do this crab cake tour thing because everybody in town has a crab cake they're proud of. Every bar in Highlandtown that serves a crab cake says, that's my grandmother's recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so everything's different about it. And everywhere I go, there's different crab cakes. But the thing has really become, people are like, which crab cake's the best? And I'm like, this tour is really about like friendship and people and storytelling. And I've listened to you for, how long have I listened to you? When did you come here? 78, 79?
I got here 49 years ago on Preakness Saturday, 1975.
75 you got here?
Yep. I moved from the Virgin Islands.
At 98 Rock, or where were you? At KTK?
WAYE.
AYE.
Yep.
Okay. So give me, I don't know your story at all. I know because we're Facebook friends, and I didn't know this until we were Facebook friends, that you weren't from here. I didn't know you grew up in L.A., but you're always posting, I saw Van Halen at the Long Beach Amphitheater, in the 70s, and I'm like, Chris has a story that you never get to tell on 98 Rock. I don't know how often. Sometimes you wield a little, I saw this band, I saw Santana in 74, whatever, but I see these pictures of you with these iconic dead rock stars, and I'm like, did you interview Hendrix?
Nope.
But you saw Hendrix.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, me too. He died too soon.
So you're from where? I don't know.
Hometown, Whittier, California. Hometown of Richard Nixon. My mother actually...
Is the library there? San Luis Obispo? Is that where it is? No? Am I wrong?
No, San Luis Obispo's north.
Different.
Whittier's east of L.A. About... There was a famous song back in the 60s called Let's Take a Trip Down Whittier Boulevard.
Who sang that?
I can't remember the damn name of the group.
It's your hometown.
Yeah, you'd think so.
I didn't know that. How far is Whittier from L.A.?
About 20 miles, but Whittier Boulevard makes it into East L.A. It became famous in that part of Southern California because it was a big place for the Hispanic lowriders. Lowriders came from... Yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, I saw Cheech and Chong, Yeah. Strawberry.
Yeah,
So you grew up, you're an L.A. kid, literally.
I was raised on the Dodgers. One of the worst things I remember as a kid was 1966. They beat Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale? What the hell? Where's this city? What's this team? I eventually found out where this city is and what that team is.
Well, you're a real broadcaster, Chris. I mean, like you're real. This is all you've done, right? Like literally, right? You've been a radio broadcaster as long as I've known you.
Done radio for 52 years. I got out of high school. I graduated in '67. I worked for my Uncle Ed selling car batteries for a year and a half. Then I went to the local college and as a fine arts student. And walked by the radio station one day and said, screw this fine arts crap, and walked into the college radio station, signed up. I was there a year.
Was it about rock and roll? Was it love of music, or was it just you wanted to be on the radio?
It was just radio. I got a transistor radio when I think I was 9, and every night I'm in bed, transistor radio's next to me.
And Vince Scully was calling the Dodgers then.
Oh, hell yes. So I'm listening to the Dodgers. If they're not playing... I found out I could pick up stations from other cities. I could pick up a station from St. Louis. I could pick up New Mexico, especially on Sunday nights when Clear Channel stations stayed on the air and all the other stations that interfered.
Down-powered, right, yeah.
They went down, so then I could pick these stations up, places I'd never been before. So
Baja California. Yeah, there's a lot of that. A lot of flamethrowers in Mexico, right?
Yeah, and a lot of radio stations I loved as a kid. KHJ was a guy named Real Don Steele. He was a big guy on that. B. Mitchell Reed on KFWB.
Did Wolfman Jack make it out there?
I met Wolfman Jack.
But I mean, nationally syndicated radio exists then?
We picked up Wolfman Jack from XERB from Mexico. But
okay.
They had a 50,000 Clear Channel watt signal just blasted everywhere.
Well, I'm thinking late 60s, early 70s. I'm thinking of iconic. I mean, Johnny Holliday's still with us, right? And people that were a part of the industry then that are leaving us. Your pathway here, You came to Baltimore Preakness of 75. So I'm trying to get this. When did you start at 98 Rock? Because FM wasn't even a thing in 1975. Like, it was a beta. You don't know what to say.
Well, here I'll confirm
experimental.
That for you. My first new car was a 69 Z28 Camaro that I ordered from the factory with a genuine, authentic, fake wood steering wheel, a custom interior, and the salesman wanted to know, why in the hell are you wasting money having them put in an FM radio?
Well, how many stations did it service at that point, Southern California?
Everybody
Handful.
was still AM then. But yeah, there was KMET, KLOS, and KPPC. KPPC was the first FM.
Have you ever broadcast on an AM station, or you've been FM for 40 years?
No, my first.
You're an AM right now, by the way.
Yeah.
So this might be his AM debut. I mean, maybe
1570.
1570 AM. Absolutely.
No, my first professional.
You sound taller on AM, Chris.
Well, actually, I just squat over a lot usually. My first station was.
I appreciate you slumming over on this side of the dial, Mr. FM guy. You know.
KUTY, Palmdale, California, which is where Don Imus started, and I didn't find that out until after I'd gone to work.
Really?
Don Imus and his brother Fred worked in the train industry. This is the high desert in California, Antelope Valley. So I drove every day 120 miles from La Habra, California to Palmdale because my wife made more money than I did, so she was in Southern California in the L.A. area working. So I did the long drive every day to Radioland. And I met Imus's brother Fred there. And what Imus would do when his brother Fred was on, that's when he was at WNBC in New York, he would call the radio station, have me take the phone, sit it by a speaker, and let WNBC pay for 5 hours of long distance so he could listen to his
brother do
Fred.
the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it takes all types. So where does Baltimore happen for you? Where did I start hearing you on 98 Rock? Because it feels like you were on 98 Rock, and it embarrasses Sarah every time I'm with her. And by the way, I've invited Sarah. Sarah has never sat with me. I don't know her story. I had dinner with her one night last summer, and she said, I went to Milford Mill. I'm a Baltimore girl. And I'm like, I have never heard you in that format. I've heard you at 467-7625, 467 Rock to get the rock concert updates. Sarah Fleischer with your concert updates. As a kid in 79, 80, and 81, my bus driver right here in Colgate, her name was Pat. She would pick us up. We drove right past Gina Schock's house, literally, on the way to middle school
nice
at
lady,
Holabird.
by the way.
So this is 1979. 98 Rock was on my bus every morning on the way to school. We don't need no education. So schools are for... So we would listen to 98 Rock on the way to school every day because our bus driver listened.
Yep.
Were you morning then yet, or you were getting there? No? What were you?
When I first got there,
I'm going to have my oyster while Chris Emry tells stories.
Have it. I did afternoons. Then when Ty Ford left the station, they put me in middays so I could do electric lunch. Then I got to 98 Rock in 84.
84?
84. In between, I did WAYE from 75 to 81. And it was 79, we flipped the station from rock and roll to big band music because you mentioned 98 Rock coming on. First thing they did was kill WKTK, which was the FM rock station. They flipped to disco. Then they killed us, and we flipped to big band.
I remember WLPL. Yeah. That was a rock pop station. That was probably the first station I loved. 1976, 77, 78. My cousin Nelson introduced me to Kiss. Got me Kiss Alive 1. 75, 76, 8 tracks. Then there's like Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, and disco. Just straight.
Oh, yeah.
All the Bee Gees, 77, 78, the Silvers, just all of that. Saturday Night Fever, 77, 78, 79, the Orioles in 79. And then I went to middle school and it was all rock and roll. From the time I got 7th grade, it was AC/DC, Styx, Rush, the stuff you were playing. I mean, like those bands, and they're still my favorite bands. And they're still what the Bay plays. And you're still wearing your AC/DC back in black shirt from 1980. Man, rock and roll is, and I say this a lot, and it pisses off certain factions. I mean, even Luke will be here later. Rock and roll has done more for me than sports, as from a joy standpoint. Sports has given me some joy. It's given me some pain. It's how I've made my living. Music is still the most pure thing in my life. If I'm going to go lay in a pool today with my wife when the show's over, I want music. If I'm doing dishes, I want music. If I'm cleaning the house, I want music. If I'm in the car, other than listening to WNST or listening to good conversation or whatever it is, I like music. So for me, music is the thing that is still with me, that I still love more than I even loved it, as a kid. And I think there's something powerful about that for all of us that love music.
Well, it's pretty much nothing but positive input you get from it. Where in sports, you've got all the
endorphins,
the
right?
crap that you've had to deal with.
Still dealing with, by the way.
Yeah. Especially, I remember when I didn't call him Angelos then.
Yeah, that's right.
But I remember when he took over. And initially we thought, well, it's not Jerry Hoffberger.
He's local.
Yeah.
He's local.
How can this turn out to suck? Well, surprise.
I say to myself all the time, I can't imagine anything that's been worse for the city. I mean, they'll talk about crime and this and that and all the awfulness that's happened here with, blackballing and all the terrible things that happen with people and race in our city. But nothing exited people in downtown over the last 25 years faster than the Orioles being awful.
Oh, yeah.
Downtown went from lots of people coming and spending money and doing things and feeling good about it to I don't go down there anymore during all of this that's happened in the last 15 years. And we're always encouraging people to come back. But that's not something Angela's family was really – I remember vividly, to me, the worst thing that Peter did, aside from not playing the game here after we won the world title of football, but the tank circle in the stadium when the city wasn't open and they decided to play a baseball game with no one in the stadium, I still marvel at the spirit of that. Just the spirit of we got to get the game in. And I just hope it's going to be different. I want to live at a point here where the Orioles not just win, but are community stewards in the way that we remember it, right? I mean, you fell in love with the Orioles when you got here. I think of you wearing an Oriole hat almost so much that you convinced me you were local. I didn't even know you were from L.A.
Let me show you what I brought to show to you.
You got props?
Yeah.
Hold on. Take your headset off.
All right.
You don't destroy me. Chris Emry is my guest. I am eating oysters. He's trying not to rip up my set here and trying to be a professional FM guy without destroying the AM radio station. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I have the Gold Rush Sevens doubler. Top prize $10,000. Chris is going to get one of them. I'm giving him this one right here. He already got an oyster and a free lottery ticket. I love you, Chris Emry. Chris is new to Dundalk, but not new to Dundalk things. He has read. Look at what you got. It's an autographed bat. What is this?
This is 33 years old. I bought this from Orioles Wives.
Hold
it's
on.
an autographed bat from the last.
Don't open it. I don't want to touch it.
Last game played in Memorial Stadium.
So this is everybody's autograph from the 91 Orioles. I'm going to hold this up so everybody can see this.
The last game played in Memorial Stadium.
And how did you acquire this, Chris?
I bought it. It was an Orioles Wives at an auction.
I'm looking at the autographs on here and seeing what I can.
Yeah,
but these are just the 91 players then?
Yeah. It's guys that were on the team then.
No. This is Bobby Gritch's autographs on here.
Oh, well.
Dave Crescioni's on here. Dan Graham is on here.
So it's everybody that was.
This is a historical relic. You know what this is? These were the guys that came back and came out onto the field that day.
You're right.
Hold on, Louis going to be on here. Hold on, let me find if there's a Louis Aparicio autograph on here. Ron Hansen. I see Ron Hansen. I see Dick Hall. Hall.
Your vision's better.
Earl Weaver, Rocky Johnson. Let's see here. Bill Hitchcock, Fred Valentine, Larry Sheets, Rick Dempsey. I see Rick Dempsey on there. Don Ossie. Don Ossie's autograph. Steve Barber's on here. Look at this. Dave Skaggs, backup catcher, 79 Orioles. There you go. This is a real relic, dude. Look at this. So, the Oriole fandom, is that real or was that made for radio for you? You like wore an Oriole hat. You were a real Oriole guy in the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think of you as being a real baseball, the kind of guy that would buy a bat like this, quite frankly,
Yeah, I'm a baseball fan.
Well, this has been something to see this resurgence, right?
Oh, yeah. It's it's invigorating. It's life-saving, especially for the city.
Yeah, and seeing 150,000 people downtown last weekend for the Phillies, that I think we feel that on the FM and the AM dial around here. I was listening to you on the way in, listening to 100.7. Literally, it's on my car right now. And when the song ended, the jock is talking about the Orioles and the Yankees playing today. That's the heart. That wasn't happening 5 years ago, right?
No.
Literally.
Hell no.
You only talk about these things when they're relevant to people. And what have you loved about Baltimore? Why did you stay all these years?
The people and the place. I see it as a small, big city. When you're raised in Southern California, L.A. is everywhere. And I don't dislike L.A. I've been back every now and then to visit family and friends and stuff like that. And every time I go back, I have to go, as Vin Scully used to say, to beautiful Dodger Stadium.
That's the best stadium in the world. That's the best place to see a baseball game. You can see a baseball game.
I love it. And it's considering how old the thing is now, they've torn down parks that have been built since Dodger Stadium.
If you ever get a chance here in town and you run into Janet Marie Smith, and she's a part tonight of the thing in Birmingham. They fixed that stadium up for the Negro baseball reunion get-together thing they're doing tonight. I'm sure they're going to be honoring Willie Mays as well. Janet Marie's the one that designed Camden Yards, and she's very available to talk to about Dodger Stadium because all of the renovations are hers. She's an executive vice president of the Dodgers who lives in Mount Washington, who lives in Ruxton, and she's always back and forth. But she took me and the man who saved my wife's life and my wife the day Donald Trump was elected. So I can tell you it was November of 2016. Niels had come over to America for the first time after saving Jen's life, and we surprised him and took him all over the country. And he had a bucket list. He wanted to go to L.A., he wanted to go to San Francisco, he wanted to go to New York, places he wanted to go in America. And he didn't know anything about baseball. He's a German, but we took him to Dodger Stadium. He knew what Dodger Stadium was. And Janet Marie had just renovated it. And it was empty. It was November. And we walked. There's a picture of my wife and I kissing in the Dodger Stadium dugout. It was that day. We walked around the whole stadium empty and got a full tour of all of the renovations. And the ballpark has stood the test of time in a way that I hope Camden Yards does. I hope 30 years from now Camden Yards is still here and is considered as iconic as Dodger Stadium is.
I think it's pretty close already, considering all the new ballparks that have been built since they put up Camden Yards. I haven't been I don't think I've been in any. I haven't even been in the new Yankee Stadium. I've been in the old one with the old Shea Stadium.
The new Yankee Stadium's like a mall. It's a giant mall. It's awful.
I went, when I was at 98 Rock, I went to Chicago and saw the Cubs and White Sox and got an elevator, and Mike Mussina was there. He was playing for, I don't remember, who was Mussina?
Might be the Yankees at that point.
Yeah, it must have been. So, because the White Sox were in town, because it's Chicago, so the White Sox are in town.
Of course.
But the Yankees were there, and I'd seen the Cubs first, and I guess they'd just gotten in because the White Sox were a couple other days.
So you do baseball tours. When you're in another city, you're going to go to a ball game.
Oh, yeah.
What do you love about this particular Orioles team?
I'd say this guy named Gunnar.
You like Gunnar?
I think if I had to pick a shortstop from pretty much any team right now, I'd take him for now and whatsoever.
As long as you'd have to pay him.
Well, we're
going to have to pay him at some point.
Oh, remember when I was telling you about the Sandy Koufax thing and Don Drysdale after '66, after the Dodgers lost? Drysdale and Koufax wanted a raise, and the Dodgers refused to pay him. Drysdale wanted $95,000, and that Koufax, arrogant guy, wanted $105,000, and they wouldn't pay him.
Well, they're packing him in. Did you see them pitch at Dodger Stadium?
Yeah.
First time you went to Dodger Stadium, how old were you? And
the first year that opened. My first Dodger game was when they got there in I think it was '58, when they played in the Coliseum.
You saw the Dodgers play in the Coliseum?
Oh yeah.
'59 World Series was there with the Dodgers and the Go-Go Sox.
Yeah, but I didn't go to the series. I was a kid. I didn't have any money. And my dad didn't have any money. So yeah, I remember specifically Wally Moon was the left fielder because the Coliseum wasn't suitable
it's not
for
built
baseball.
For baseball.
They
no.
put up a huge wall in left field. The left field line was about 150 feet, maybe 200 feet. But Wally Moon, left-handed hitter, would hit home runs over that wall and
Pop it up.
They called them moon shots.
Moonshine. I didn't know that. I had never been to the L.A. Memorial Coliseum until Lamar played there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
On that crazy Monday night game where we beat them 51-0. I went to the top of the Coliseum. They served beer and wine in the press box that night.
Wow.
I've been Chad Steele threw me out, but I mean I've had NFL press credentials for 30 years. The only time I ever sat in the press box after the game, and they're like, "Would you like some red or some white?" And I'm like, "I'll have the Cabernet, thank you." So I actually drank wine in the press box 5 years ago after the game. I'm sorry, it was 3 o'clock in the morning here anyway, but the L.A. Memorial Coliseum is like one of those places that when you go there, it's cavernous, but when you're in it, it doesn't feel as big as maybe it would on TV. You feel like you can see both ends, and it's white, and the torches and all of that stuff. But the notion that they played baseball there, every time I see a picture of it, I'm like, what the hell is that? Well, in the modern vernacular, when the Rockies were born, before they built Coors Field, they played that first season or two in Mile High Stadium. They played baseball in Mile High Stadium. I wish I would have gone and experienced that just once, because I've seen some weird baseball games, but like they play them in the cornfield now in Iowa, and they're playing one in Birmingham tonight, so there's some weird places, but Dodger Stadium is the most perfect place to see a baseball game. I would think the L.A. Memorial Coliseum might be the worst.
Absolutely, positively, it had to have been, and that went on for, I think,
3 or 4.
4 years.
It was 62
like
maybe, Dodger
Yeah.
Stadium, 61, 62, something like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't know you were that old. I knew I was going to learn stuff. Chris Emry's here from 100.7, the Bay. What do I call you? Afternoon fill-in, this, that. I mean, I love Colleen. I don't know the young man that does the afternoon, intern Matt. I don't know him. I met Huber once in my life, but I love your little radio station.
And
You're local. You're like us, you know?
Like you said, you know Brillhart. You've known him forever.
Well, and I love Zeppelin, you know. I like his acoustic tunes, too. But you're always at Gots to Rock and Roll, and I'm not shocked that you showed up in an AC/DC shirt. I'll say that. You love music. I mean, I was trying to lead you down the I love music route. You didn't even go down the I got my Springsteen ticket from this guy a couple years ago, Springsteen on Broadway. You forked over the money and then decided you didn't want to spend it, but you spend money on rock and roll. You're like me. You love rock and roll.
Well, and I've also been fortunate enough, most of the big shows I've been to over my career, I didn't have to spend a penny.
Right. So you feel like you're getting even now?
Good old days with the record promoters that come in and I got the new Stones album. And last week was I forget the anniversary. They played the Warner Theater. It was like a last-minute thing.
The Stones did?
Yeah, Stones played the Warner Theater. I was the program director of WAYE then, and I think I was making like $300 a week. Big radio money. And the tickets to the show were $10, but I didn't have to spend it. I got
$9.90, $8.80, and $7.70. I think is what it was, right? Yeah. I think yes.
And I'm standing in line, and a guy comes up and says, "I'll give you $100 for your ticket." I went, $100 that was a lot of money. And I actually thought about it for a couple seconds, and then I thought, no, the Rolling Stones are your favorite band? Hell no.
When I was a little boy, I had Elton John tickets at the arena, and they were literally like in the 5th row. And my maternal mother and I went down, and someone offered us like $50 for them. They were like $6 tickets. And my mother turned to me and said, $100, we can go out to dinner 3 times. You know, we can go down and have lobster and filet mignon at Phillips. And I never told the story in the air, but we sold the tickets. It was 80 or 81, Elton John. I mean, I've seen Elton 100 times since then, right? But I do remember getting overwhelmed, making me an offer I could not refuse, you know. So Chris Emry's here, and we're at Costas, and we're giving away lottery tickets and trying to have fun and tell some old stories. All these years later for Baltimore for you, and 98 Rock and FM, and just how music's changed and the but you stayed here. I mean, you came and you never left, and I guess that's for Marty Bass, for Dan Rogers, for all my friends, Scott Garceau, people that came from other places sort of famously with different accents or different places, and they came here as sort of a young, maybe trying to get to New York, right? I mean, everybody's like, I'm going to take a job at the Baltimore Sun, and I'll go to the New York Times, or take a job at Jay-Z, and I'll be in New York, you know. along that life's highway, a lot of you stayed here. I'll say got stuck here, fell in love with here, or fell in love here and then stayed here. But you're one of those guys, I think of you as a Baltimorean, man.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's fine with me. I've been here long enough to sort of officially
you feel like my
be
Uncle
kind
Chris.
of adopted.
That's what you feel like to me. You know?
I went from KUTY. I was there a year and a half, got fired, got divorced. And a friend of mine that had come back from Vietnam was in the Virgin Islands. His brother was there in the Coast Guard, so when he got out of the Army, he went to the Virgin Islands, bought a sailboat, and was having a good old time. I'm fired. I'm divorced. Okay, I'm going to St. Thomas, so I moved to the Virgin Islands.
Only place you can go with weather's better than L.A.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's summer every day of the year. So I got a job at great call letters, WESP-FM. Worked for public TV, WTJX, T for Thomas, J for St. John, X for St. Croix, so a letter for each one of the Virgin Islands. And I did that for about a year.
Got a good tan, probably, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The chief engineer of the radio station was a cocaine dealer. He'd go to Peru or Colombia or whatever it was, buy all this stuff, go to Florida and sell it all, and bring stuff back, and we'd stay up for like 3 days. And I thought, I got to get the hell out of here. So I did. And also, alcohol. You go to St. Thomas if you want a vodka and orange juice. Vodka's about 5 ounces. The orange juice is 1.5 ounces. Or rum or liquor in Virgin Islands, there's no taxes. It's cheaper to buy liquor than it is to buy a soda pop.
I have never been to the Virgin Islands. I've been to Jamaica 100 times. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been a lot of places. You know, I've been to Cuba. I haven't been to the Virgin Islands. So
there you go.
Well, I'm not a virgin, baby. Yeah, the Virgin Atlantic there. What's your favorite band? I don't know your musical palette other than I once bought Springsteen tickets from you. I think you and I hung out at a Chicago concert or something. But I would think your musical palette and mine, if you and I were stuck on a virgin island, there'd be no virgins there, we would probably get along with music, right? I mean, you bring 10 albums and I bring 10 albums. We probably would figure this out, you and me.
You're going to get some Rolling Stones. I've seen the Rolling Stones more than anybody, and you've seen them more recently than I have, like, what, a week ago?
Would you have gone to Philly with me last Tuesday if I hit you?
Oh, yeah.
My wife broke her ankle. We were going to go to Philly. She thought the whole afternoon I was going because the tickets weren't. It was $125. It wasn't stupid.
No, I didn't.
And it was a beautiful night. It was a beautiful night. And about 3 o'clock, she came to me and she's like, "What time are you leaving?" And I'm like, it was almost like a Stone song. I ain't got the jam. You know what I mean? So I didn't have the jam that night to go on Tuesday, and I fell asleep at 8 o'clock. The Orioles were playing. I fell asleep on the Oriole game that night. I was just tired. I get up early sometimes, 2, 3 in the morning. And I woke up the next day, and I'm making coffee in the kitchen. My wife's hobbling around. She's like, "I can't believe you didn't go to see the Stones last night. I just can't believe it." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to regret this." You know what I mean? Because they're West Coasting now. They're 80 years old. Chris, the thing I will tell you about the Stones, I saw the Stones the first time, and I thought you were at 98 Rock in 1981, but you weren't. I really did. You were on Baltimore radio in 81.
Yeah, it was AYE.
Okay. 81, the Stones did a thing with 98 Rock where everybody had bed sheets in Dundalk saying, "I want Stones tickets from 98 Rock." Down by Squires on Holabird Avenue, there was the house across from Squires. I'll never forget it. It was bed sheets the size of the house. It says, "I want Stones tickets from 98 Rock." That's what you had to do to win tickets. It was a 98 Rock promotion, right? And I'm 12 years old at the time, and the only way to get tickets was to read a want ad in the Sun papers or the News American under T for tickets. Remember classified ads? Right, you're old.
Yeah, Heckinger's. That's where you buy them.
Well, they were sold out. So there was a guy who met me, and I'm not making this up. He met us. He was from Pikesville, and we lived in Dundalk, right here at Colgate. My stepbrother drove me in his 1976 Malibu out to the McDonald's on York Road. The McDonald's is still there, right inside the Beltway, right in York Road in Towson. And I met this. It was like a drug deal. I met a dude in the parking lot. I got to know him later in life. His name was Danny. He was a ticket broker forever. But I was a little boy, and he was 19 or 20. And he had 2 tickets in a Capitol Center envelope, the silver Capitol Center tickets, obstructed view. Jovan, the Musk Oil. Remember Jovan?
Yeah.
Jovan presents Rolling Stones, Capitol Center, December 9th, 1981. And I saw the Stones. So that was my first Stone show. It was the same. Do you remember the Going to a Go-Go video that was on MTV? It was that era. It was a Tattoo You tour. That was shot in Virginia Beach. That song was kind of famous at the time. And I've been seeing the Stones ever since. And they were as good in New York 4 weeks ago. It was like the Toby Keith song. They were as good as I've ever seen them. And he's 80 years old, and I don't know how they're doing it.
It's only rock and roll, and I like it. And I'm going to keep on doing it because that's what I do. My first concert that I paid for was the Rolling Stones. 1969, Oakland Alameda County Coliseum.
I was going to say, I thought you said Altamont. I'm like, what?
I moved from Northern California back to Southern California.
That was a couple years later, right?
The day
Altamont?
of Altamont. I drove past the area in 69. Yeah, Altamont.
It was in 69. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not wrong. Okay, all right.
So it was the Rolling Stones, Ike and Tina Turner Review, and B.B. King, $8.
$8 a lot of money in 69, though, man.
Oh, it was. It was. My wife said, "What? You spent I could have spent that at the grocery store."
Do you have a favorite concert? I mean, because I don't know that I do. People always ask me, what's the best concert? I mean, I was at Live Aid. I've just seen so many.
Yeah, I was at Live Aid, too. And I don't think the Zeppelin sucked as much as Robert Plant thought they did, but
You'll never tell me that wasn't one of the great days of my life.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I got up early in the morning. I was up at the vet at 7:30 in the morning because I wanted to beat traffic. And I'm a kid, 16, 17 years old. I was one of the first people in, not the vet, JFK, I should say.
Yeah.
One of the first people in there. I remember watching Adam and the Ants and watching all of the bands from Britain on the TV at 7 o'clock in the morning. One of the reasons I got there early is the concert had already started in London. And, Bob Geldof and the Boomtown Rats, they were all playing in the morning. I was there all day, man. My favorite memory of that day is when Crosby, Stills, and Nash was playing Southern Cross. It was so hot that day, right? It was July 13th, 1985 or whatever. 100 degrees. And down on the back of the infield, they had showers. They literally had hooked up like you could sprint. It was almost like a slip and slide. And I was in that communal shower being showered with this cold water on this hot day when they were singing I've Been Around the World, you know? So you don't forget those memories, those moments.
no, and me being there, I was broadcasting live, so I would go.
Were you backstage?
Most of the time I was backstage. Jack Nicholson was there.
It was Bill Graham's thing, right?
I walked up to, I saw this Volkswagen bus pull up, door opens, and Brian Wilson gets out, Beach Boys. So I walk up to Brian and go, "Hey, Brian, my name's Chris Emry. We're live on 98 Rock in Baltimore, and you and I have something in common." His dad had a house in Whittier.
Okay.
So I went up and said, "I'm from Whittier." And Brian Wilson, live on 98 Rock, says, "My dad has an effing house in effing Whittier." And when I walked in the station on Monday, nobody said a word.
Oh, no letters. The 98 Rock crowd knew they knew not to get the F out. Who have you sat with that I've seen these pictures, like, did you sit with Ozzy once? Ozzy sat with you? No?
You mentioned Elton John earlier. I went to one of the record guys. He's had a new album coming out. They brought all these radio guys down to a recording studio in D.C. There was a grand piano. Elton John comes out, sits down. All these other radio morons are leaning up against the wall talking to each other. I go up, put my elbows on the grand piano. I'm the only one that's on the piano listening to Elton John play right in front of me.
What did he play?
Oh, he played Tiny Dancer, played...
See, I think I've had a good rock and roll life. Then I knew if I sit and talk to you, if you brought me a baseball bat, you would have brought me your pictures of all of your rock and roll pursuits. That's kind of where I'm in this, because Brillhart and I don't socialize as much as we should or could. But every time we spend time together, we're talking about backstage at Hammerjacks, people we met, things we did, stories we heard, stuff people told us. And, Joan Jett's doing her 98 Rock thing this week.
Yeah.
But the rock and roll thing for me, like, I interviewed Robert Plant over breakfast. He took my son by the hand when my son was 5 years old. and took him to a Ben & Jerry's kiosk at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia and bought my son a Cherry Garcia, a bowl of ice cream. So Robert Plant did that for my boy. I don't have pictures, but like I interviewed David Bowie on the phone, and then I had dinner with him during Tin Machine down in D.C., but these legendary, iconic, larger. I mean, Billy Joel was really kind to me. Bon Jovi, like back in the '80s and all. But I see your stuff and I get salivating. You know, I see your pictures and I'm like, damn, Emry was born 15 years before me. He had all the fun back in the 70s.
Here's a Joan Jett moment for you. She was playing Club Venus. I was bringing her on.
Club Venus. This is before I Love Rock and Roll.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. This is Runaways era. Okay.
She's coming out. Well, I'll tell you about that after I do the Joan Jett thing. She comes out. She shows late. She's not going on because her manager, Kenny Laguna, hasn't shown up yet with the weed so she can get high. So once Kenny shows up, she smokes a joint. She's ready to go. I walk out to introduce her, and she must have memory problems worse than I do now, because on the stage in letters over a foot high, it says, Baltimore. So she comes out and goes, hey, looks down, Baltimore, how you doing?
Springsteen got that wrong a couple years ago. He came out and did a whole night thinking he was in like Cleveland. He was in Detroit.
Yeah, I think you're...
Well, it's easy to do, I guess. If you're in a band, you don't know.
We did Darkness on the Edge of Town. I think it was at the Capitol Center, and I took a friend of mine's wife on why, and I keep thinking back about this year.
How did this
Why
happen?
the hell did I take her? Because my girlfriend at the time couldn't go, but anyway, I took her. She didn't even know who Springsteen was. So after the show, we're doing a backstage thing. He was wearing Levi's full of holes before it was cool. He was doing it, so it had to be cool. He's signing autographs and talking to people, and this woman keeps going up and sticking her fingers in the hole in his pants, touching his leg, and he keeps... They finally had to grab her and said, what the hell? What were you... And she didn't have an explanation.
This is a woman you took?
Yeah. Why she thought it was a good idea to stick her finger in...
Was she drinking?
Nah, no, she wasn't drunk. I don't know what the hell her problem was.
When I think of that era at the Capitol Center, I think of women coming into the men's room. That's when I think of that era.
Hell yes.
That's what I think. Like, anytime I see a woman come into a men's room that's crowded at that kind of festival event, I think of the Capitol Center, and I think, all I remember about my childhood is every girl snuck into the men's room and would just walk past all of us.
I remember standing in a urinal and having women on both sides of me squatting in the urinal peeing while I'm peeing.
That must have been an L.A. thing. Back you hippies were doing drugs.
That was the Capitol Center.
All right, well, the Capitol Center was crazy back in the day. Chris Emry is here. He's crazy on 100.7 The Bay from time to time. He has been my longtime friend. He is now an Edgemerean on the water. What are you going to do with the water once you get it operating?
Come on. You live in Dundalk. It's water. It ain't water.
It's water. That's water in Philly is what it is. It's the water. It's the water we put in our pretzels and our pizza. Baseball, rock and roll. What's next for you? You moved to Edgemere. Are you going to water ski? What are you doing with this spread down here? Because I'm shocked to see you here at Costas and Dundalk. I don't think he was east side.
Got to get the pier built.
All right.
The pilings are still there, so we got to get them checked.
How deep's the water underneath your joint there?
I honestly don't know. We're high up, so we don't have to. They initially gave us flood insurance, and I had enough sense. We're at least 40 feet above the water.
That's a good place to be in Edgemere.
All the way down. Yeah, because it's going over.
I lived through Isabel. I know. We changed all sorts of regulations around here because of all that.
And you've seen what's happening in certain high tides now in Annapolis, how the whole pier's going underneath water.
Well, this is an American problem. You know, I would think this is a global problem as well. But but I always think about that. Buying on the water always makes me a little nervous, you know.
Yeah.
I've had floods in my basement. Isabel flooded my basement in White Marsh. I didn't live on the water, so you know it.
My basement got flooded in Reisterstown, ruined all sorts of crap.
Well, I love when a person lives here their whole life and they know the stigma that we have here in Dundalk, and you decided to come be one of us. So I appreciate that. Well, I hope you stick around and watch the game. Chris Emry's here. He's got the rock and roll. And the Stones, that's it? The Stones, you don't have any other favorite bands? I should have taken the Stones last Tuesday. I screwed that up. I'm sorry.
I
fun.
love Little Feat.
They played recently as a reunited thing, right? A little festival, right?
It was I think it was the same night that we were doing the Jamie Costello thing.
Was it last Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. It was last Saturday or Friday. I don't remember which, but
they had a lot of local ties, Little Feat, right?
Oh, yeah.
They were a DC-ish kind of band, right? North Virginia band,
hell
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, When old George was alive, man, did they rock.
Oh, Atlanta, and, right, Fat Man in the Bathtub. It's good stuff there.
Roll on into Baltimore.
I
Got to love me now.
I love the album they did in the late 80s when I was the music critic at The Sun, Let It Roll. That was probably one of the last great things they did, Let It Roll Tonight.
That's what I was just doing.
Oh, man, that was good stuff there.
Feet.
Yeah, I have a couple of weird bands like that. Like, I've always loved the Bodines. I've always loved the Smithereens. But I love all kinds of music, man. Like, my wife and I, last thing she did before she broke her leg, we went up to Hershey to see Joe Jackson play the piano and sing some love songs. And he's put together this – he's such an artist. He did this thing where he's doing British – pub hall music from the early 20th century, so like 1910, early, like vaudeville almost, like British vaudeville, and he's done a whole album as this character, as a band conductor, and the music's bawdy and funny and sexual and sent up and anti-government, and it's early 1900s British style, and it was a concept thing, and I'm thinking, dude, you're 70 years old. You could just come play the piano, sing Real Men, sing the hits. Artists don't do that. And people were bitching about it a little bit. I just want to hear him sing. And I'm old enough now. There's somebody coming into Costas right now and saying, what are you doing talking to Emry? He's not sports. Stick to sports, pal. You know? And I feel like for artists, whether it's Springsteen doing jug music 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we did that Seeger, Arlo Guthrie type stuff, or whether it's bands trying to reinvent themselves. Have you seen Kiss, Paul Stanley, doing his jazz review?
No.
It's unbelievable. Google it. He leads this soul review. It's a soul review is what it is. Google Paul Stanley. So these artists go and do different things. I have maximum respect for that, when musicians go and do something different with their lives. Whether it's Little Steven doing acting with Sopranos, I like that.
No, that was a smart move. That was one of the, aside from joining Bruce's band, that was probably the second smartest thing he's ever done.
But every time I've ever seen him interviewed, and I listened to Little Steven's Garage and all that, he wasn't an actor, and he told him, I'm not an actor. Like, perfect, that's what we want. He didn't want to do it. Like, that's the craziest thing is, like, he had to be talked into doing that. Because The Sopranos is The Sopranos now. Before it was like, it's a little HBO show. I got to show up. I got to act. I don't get to play rock and roll. Yeah, but I respect that. I really do.
The last episode suckered you in, didn't it? I remember telling my wife, the cable just went out.
Don't Stop Believing.
Mm-hmm.
Journey, there's another band, right? We got music. You and I are going to go to a show together sometime soon, all right? So pick some classic, some band that's still happening out there.
Here's a B.B. King moment you'd like.
Okay.
After one of the Grammy broadcasts I did, well, it was during the broadcast, talking to B.B. King, and I noticed he's got this huge ring. I mean, giant. Both of his initials, B.B., with probably 49,000 diamonds in each B.B.
Like a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, about that size, actually. And he takes it off and hands it to me. I slide it on. Go, man, this is really cool.
It got stuck.
No, I said, I'll be right back. I got to go to the men's room. He got a big laugh out of that.
Did you get up?
No. I started to stand, but just to see what their reaction would be.
The rapper Ice Cube from Fridays and big Raider fan, he came by the set in 2004 at the Super Bowl, and he had a diamond watch on that was just crusted. It was just this it was this shimmery giant thing on his arm. And my wife took a shine to it, and he took it off and said, here, you can wear it. And he gave it to my wife, and my wife was like, I'm afraid of touching it. Worth about $500,000.
Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah, well, wearing that ice around here. Eat your oyster. Chris Emry's here. It's all brought to you by friends at the Maryland Lottery. I got some Pac-Man scratch-offs to give away somewhere around here. I have a Gold Rush Sevens doubler. My man John Martin came on this week. His Guardians are playing our Orioles next week, so we had a fun conversation with him. We're down here at Costas making the Maryland Crab Cake Tour happen. It's all brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Malty Care, as well as our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions, as well as a sponsor, 100.7 The Bay, keeping their water clean as well. Chris is on the FM dial from time to time over there. He's
Sundays, noon to 6.
Every Sunday you're on.
Yep.
I'm probably in the car every Sunday. That's why I feel like you're a regular there. You don't do every day, but you're there enough that I would say You're Chris Emry of the Bay, 100.7.
Yes.
And now all around Bel Air on
107.5.
not 105.7. I want to point that out. That's different. That's
That
where
can get confusing.
Well, that's where if you want inferior sports radio, that's a good place to go. In the meantime, you stay here. Luke is going to be here. So Luke and I get together sometimes when there's a game being played, and we've never watched. I can't remember the last time I watched a baseball game with him. I don't think I've ever watched a baseball game with him in an environment like this. I'm going to find out. We've been in press boxes, but never together. Only once together, and they tried to throw him out because I was with him last year. So seriously, Luke has worked with me and for me for almost 15, 16 years now. I'm trying to think of how many baseball games we have sat and watched together. Kansas City in 14. We watched 2 games together sitting next to each other. And he hates sitting with me at a game because he's into it, and I'm into it, but I like talk. I'm like personal. He's like on every pitch, on every play, on every substitute. He's a professional. So I bother him, so it's not good for him when I'm with him. But I had to think about this today because he's been covering the baseball team for a decade and a half. And I don't remember ever watching a baseball game with him, like where we have gone to his house, my house, a bar, a thing, a stadium, a game,
It's
a press
about
box.
to change.
Today's the day. We're going to watch the Orioles and the Yankees play a rubber match here today at Costas. So we're going to do that. And we try to come up with topics that have nothing to do with like today's game because I want to run it tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. I don't want to run it for a month. So I think today the topics are All-Star Game, Hall of Fame, Willie Mays. By the way, trivia question for you, Emry. You're Mr. Baseball. I've got baseball bat autographs here. I'm still looking for Louis. Louis's got to be on this bat because he was here that day. And if I see it, because I'll know a Louis autograph one. I'm going to look at it real good because I've just named John Stafaro, Glenn Gulliver. I'm serious. Bill Swaggerty. I'm looking at the names on here because I can read a lot of them. I don't see Louis. So when Willie Mays died the other day, it was in the morning, and I saw it. John Arand, who broke the news that David Rubenstein was buying the Orioles, former Sports Business Journal guy, a big Oriole fan, he texted me, and he sent me a text, and it was Bob Ryan from the Boston Globe's tweet. And it said, Luis Aparicio, with the passing of Willie Mays, Luis Aparicio is now the oldest living Hall of Famer.
I saw that yesterday.
And I'm trying to chew on that a little bit. Like, it's been 48 hours, and I'm trying to think that through and thinking it's macabre. You know, my cousin's 90 now. I haven't seen him in 15, 20 years. His agent was Baltimore-based. Dick Gordon was his agent. And then Dick died. So Dick was my conduit to get to Louis, you know, like in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So I don't even have a contact to get to Louis at this point. But he's 90 years old, and I'm just thinking, like, I have never thought about that day. I never thought about the day Peter Angelos would die. Of all the angst about Peter Angelos, I did not have a press release prepared for the day. I just thought he's never going to die. I mean, I thought about it that way. And I sort of feel that way about Louis. Like, Louis never going to die. You know what I mean? Like, you feel that way about your relatives, you know, like in that way.
Until this moment of now that he's
the oldest living Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And that unto itself is a beautiful, incredible thing to live to be 90, right? But so I saw that, and it really started to give me a little pinch me moment that, like, my God, there's going to come a day when my phone's going to go off and we're going to lose Louis, and I'm going to be looking even more for his autograph on his bat. Because I don't collect much these days. You know this, right? I collect the rock and roll belt buckles. I've shown you those, my Pacifica belt buckles.
Yeah.
I didn't even wear a belt today. It's too damn hot. I didn't wear pants. I wore like tennis shorts.
Thanks for wearing pants, by the way. I mean,
appreciate
shorts,
that.
yeah.
I collect Houston Oilers, weird Houston Oiler memorabilia, because I'm an old Oiler fan, and what the Ravens have done to me is so despicable that I have sort of given up. I don't even wear purple anymore. And then the Louis Aparicio collection that I have of weird autograph things like this. In the last year, and I kind of have a limit. If it costs more than like $10 or $15, I don't need it. You know what I mean? I don't need a Venezuelan 10 graded card that's $800. You know what I mean? But I have all the Topps cards, I have all the autographs, and it's like the last thing I collect is Louis Aparicio stuff. So, you know, when I picked up my favorite Venezuelan beer is called Polar. It's Polar, Polar,
yeah.
But it's got a big polar bear on it. And Louis did a promotion, and I bought the promotional calendar for it online for $25 on eBay. And it's the actual beers. Coors did this, I think, were baseball bats. The beers were these 16-ounce bottles that look like a bat, and you're like you're drinking at it, right? So I thought I got to buy that, but I'm buying Milk Duds Louis Aparicio's. I'm looking for the 7-Eleven cup with Louis Aparicio, but I have all the normal stuff. But I'm a baseball collector in that way. But it's all about Louis, So
yeah, well, gotta be. I mean, your last.
Well, that's why I want to talk Hall of Fame with Luke, because he and I. Have you been to Cooperstown yet, Luke? See, he's
No.
How can he not go to Cooperstown?
I've been. You've been.
I've been. You've been.
Yep.
I love, baseball brings it. That's what we should do. We go to a ball game together. That's what I'm going to do.
It's a deal. It just made me think of the first autographs I ever got was at that Dodger game. The bullpen was right next to the seats. So Joe Pignatano, who was a backup catcher, and Ed Roebuck was a relief pitcher. They're in the bullpen. I asked them, and they both signed my whatever.
What year are we talking about?
59, 58.
Oh, you're talking Memorial Coliseum then.
Oh, yeah.
Not Dodger Stadium.
No, this was the Coliseum. They when they just got to L.A., there was nothing keeping you from the guys in the bullpen. Here's the seats. Here's the bullpen.
Oh, and that fence is 3 feet high in Dodger Stadium.
Oh, yeah. All
famously
I had to do
low.
was lead over and wish I knew where they were.
You got the memory. That's all that matters.
Some.
See, I call him Chris Gots to Rock and Roll Emry. Turns out he's a baseball guy. Mr. L.A. has become Mr. Edgemere. From Whittier, California to the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. You can hear him 100.7 this weekend. Give him a spin from noon till 6 on Sundays. And if you see a guy that looks like Chris Emry at a Jamie Costello party, it really is him. Love you, dude. Back in black, I've hit the sack. We're here down here at Costas. We're giving away scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery, including our Gold Rush Sevens doubler. I got to say it the right way. Also our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions and Jiffy Lube Multi-Care. Luke Jones is going to tell me why baseball players should not fight with each other in the coming hours. And we're also going to discuss all things baseball, Hall of Fame. We're going to eat some oysters Rockefeller. We're going to belly up to the bar. I'm going to get some proper steamed shrimps with onions, Old Bay, and beer. Put some beer in there. We're going to watch the Orioles and the Yankees here. Back for more from Costas. Stay with us. It's the Maryland Crab Cake Tour with Crab Imperial and Kings and Royalty.